Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai.
Jai.
Bangamai ki jai.
Jai.
Munamai ki jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveda Bhattavindi ki jai.
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari
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 Bol.
Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of sorry, to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tera Swami. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Vedanta. Narayana Namaste Chanarunchevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaham Vadirayat Nashta Prayeshwa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu.
So, this morning class is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 50. Soyam te bhivitastata Bhagavan Vishwa Bhavana Samasena Hare Nanyad Anyasmat Sad Ashachayad Soyam te bhivitastata Bhagavan Vishwa Bhavana Samasena Hare Nanyad Anyasmat Sad Asachayat So Yamte Bhivitastata Bhagavan Vishwabhavana Samasena Hare Nanyat Anyasmat Sad Asachayat. Hare Krishna.
Soyam te bihitastata Bhagavan Visvabhavana Samasena Hare Nanyat Anyasmat Sad Asatyat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone
Hare
else?
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
So ayam te abhihitastat Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Samasena Harer Nanyat Anyasmat Sad Asajayata.
Hare Krishna. Soyayam ye bihitastata Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Samasena Hare Nanyad Anyasamat Asad Ashashashat. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Anyone else?
Soyam te bihitastata Bhagavan Vishwabhavana Samasena Harer Nanyat Anyasmat Sadasachayat.
Hey. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll do word for word. Sa that I am the same. Te unto you. Abhi ta explained by me. Tata, my dear son. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vishwabhavana, the creator of the manifested worlds. Samasena, in brief, Hare, without Hari, the Lord. Na, never. Anyat, anything else. Anyasmat, being the cause of. Sat, manifested or phenomenal. Asat, nominal. Cha, and. Yat, whatever they may be. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there are no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existences. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since we generally have the experience of the temporary material worlds and conditioned souls trying to lord it over the material worlds, Brahmaji explained to Narada Dev that this temporary world is a work of the external potency of the Lord, and that the conditioned souls struggling here for existence are the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. There is no cause for all these phenomenal activities but him, Hari, the Supreme Lord, who is the primeval cause of all causes. This does not mean, however, that the Lord himself is distributed impersonally. He is aloof from all these interactions of the external and marginal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 4, it is confirmed that by his potencies alone, he is present everywhere and anywhere. Everything that is manifested rests on his potency only, but he, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always aloof from everything. The potency and the potent are simultaneously one and different from one another. One should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation of this miserable world, just as one should not blame the king for creating a prison house in the government. The prison house is a necessary institution of the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient to the laws of the government. Similarly, this material world full of miseries is a temporary creation of the Lord for those who have forgotten him and are trying to lord it over the false manifestation. However, he, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. And for this, he has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures, his representative, and personal incarnations also. Since he has no direct attachment to this material world, he is not to be blamed for its creation. Om Gyanati Mirandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Ambilitam Jena, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavam Shcha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sijivam. Sa Advaitam Sa Avadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagaspati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vindavadeshwari Shabanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priya. Vanchakalpataru Bescha Kripa Sundve Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namni. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharini. Shri Pariksit Jai. So, the translation again. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the manifested world. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there are no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existences. Hare Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport who's actually speaking. It's actually Lord Brahma that is explaining the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Narada Muni. So Narada is in fact the son of Lord Brahma, as many other very highly distinguished personalities came as sons of Lord Brahma. So there's so much that about the Lord. Of course, the Lord is so unlimited. We can't literally say forever. We can't say the Lord's qualities. It will take forever. And it says Ananta, Ananta says so many mouths. He can't even explain the whole situation with the Lord's and Lord's potencies. Everything about the Lord is unlimited. But Lord Brahma puts it succinctly in one sentence. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there are no other causes for the phenomenal and nominal existences. You go into a little bit of definitions from the dictionary, or these days we go to Google and get definitions from it. Phenomenal and nominal existences. So they have interesting definitions. Nominal and phenomenal. Well, I will first talk about what the dictionary says, and then we'll bring it into spiritual terms. The dictionary says the first world is called the nominal world, and it's the world of things outside of us, the world of things as they really are, the world of trees, dogs, cars, houses, and fluff that are really real. There's a little bit of assumption here on the sides, but there's one of those philosophers that says our minds are created in such a way that we cannot comprehend this world as it really is. Instead, what we perceive is like an altered version of this world, and that is called the phenomenal world. So to bring it back to spiritual terms, especially the way Srila Prabhupada has explained things to us, basically, the nominal world, the closest description of it is the spiritual world. And the phenomenal world is the material world. That's all they're really saying. But there's even a diagram that they put on Google to explain things here. Nominal world, not knowable, of course, knowable by us. And it's the real world. So that fits the spiritual world. And then the phenomenal world is what we perceive as the world we're in. And Srila Prabhupada has made it simple. The charges have also made it simple. Srila Prabhupada has quoted from them in so many ways. He's described this, that this world that we're in is a perverted reflection of the real. The world that we're in is a perverted reflection of the real. The easiest way to see this is our own shadow, or the shadow of anything. When we walk, the shadow walks. When we move our hands, the shadow's hand moves. We move our legs, the shadow's legs move. So it seems like the shadow is active because what we do, they're doing. But is the shadow real? The shadow doesn't have a single organ in it. The shadow is actually darkness. Never, it doesn't even have light. It's just darkness. But it has so many things that it can do when we do. So if we are the real, then the shadow is a reflection But it's perverted in the fact that it's just dark. There's nothing in it. Nothing. But it can act like we can do. Mm. So that's the phenomenal world we're in, the material world. Mm. So of course, the people that gave the definition in the dictionary, they're not Krishna conscious. Therefore, they tried as best with their assumptions to really give a definition that if they knew the spiritual world, let's put it that way, they could have defined it better, what the nominal world is. But they don't know. And so they tried to kind of imagine things, a little bit of speculation. But actually, with the explanation given by Lord Brahma, it means the nominal existence is a spiritual existence, and phenomenal existence is a material existence. So, Srila Prabhupada says we generally have the experience of the material world. And conditioned souls trying to lord it over the material world and actually suffering in the process. Namai Bamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are all parts and parcels, small parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manashashtani Indriyani Prakatistani Kashati. That's the problem. We're trying to manage things on our own, and we're struggling. The six senses, which includes the mind. Krishna just says it directly in Bhagavad Gita. So why this world is a world of struggle? It's actually set up that way. And it takes a while for people to really understand that the world we're living in, we're actually living in a suffering condition. See, there is confusion about suffering situation and stable conditions, temporary stable conditions. What we have in the material world, especially for those of us living in the so-called advanced countries that have used science and technology to produce so many things for convenience, they've tried to make life a little more stable, but it's still temporary because anything can happen to ruin anything that's been set up. There can be crashes of vehicles, car crash, train crash, plane crash. Although those things, when they are working, they make it possible for us to live our material lives. But anything can happen at any time. And so using the things in the material world and coming up with different products based on what material nature supplies, we have built ourselves a situation that is, to some extent, stable. But it's only stable for a little while. And then it can fall apart. And so that's not a situation of happiness. We shouldn't confuse temporary stability with happiness. Papa used the words, we're just trying to manage and make things convenient for us. That's all, this life in the material world. And as Kali Yuga progresses, the situation is people are cheating and others are being cheated. The world of the cheaters and the cheated. And if it goes on now, it's got to the point where things are kept in secret. We're being cheated, but at the same time, the real deal is being kept from us. So we don't really know what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, you can't protest much. Although, of course, the Lord is always in the heart. And Paramatma always prompts, there is something wrong, there is something wrong. So even though people don't know what it is that's wrong, they know there is something wrong. The major thing that's wrong is this phenomenal existence that we're in. The major thing that's wrong is the fact that we're not home. And we have these physical bodies, and everything that science is trying to do is just trying to give the best situation that can happen to us with these physical bodies. Nothing is done for the soul. So that's why we're so grateful to Srila Prabhupada for what he has provided in this Kali Yuga for our souls. So as he explains, since Brahma is explained to Narada, that this world is the work of the external potency, Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord. And we, as conditioned souls, trying to exist here, we're using the marginal potency given the choice of going to the internal or the external potency of the Lord. Choosing the external or the internal. Choosing external gives us more problems, and choosing the internal brings us to better realizations. And then from there, we begin to see things as they are. But Narada is explaining that this is all from the Lord. In fact, the one statement that covers it all is no Krishna, no existence of anything. If there is no Krishna, no existence of anything. Krishna is the source of the word existence is used because of Krishna. Without Krishna, we can't even use the word exist. And break it down into its different subcategories, living, and then of course the different entities. But he's the cause of all causes. But at the same time, for the material world, it's a suffering condition. Because it's a suffering condition, the Lord is not part of it. He's aloof from these interactions. And Srila Prabhupada makes the point that we should not be disapproving or express disapproval of the Supreme Lord because he's created this miserable world. Just as one should not blame the king for creating a prison house. The reason the prison house is there is not because of the king. It's there because there are those who will disobey the laws of the government. And they're those, this time still the majority, that obey the laws of the government to a large extent. And those who are very disobedient, they can cause problems to the rest of the people. And therefore, they have to be taken out and put away. And there's a place that they have to be put. Therefore, there's a place that has to be constructed for that purpose. And that's why the jails are there. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that the material world is the big, big, big expression of the Lord's jail for those who are wanting to do their own thing. They want to be in control, but you can't be in control of the spiritual world. The Lord is the controller of both material and spiritual, but he allows those who want to control to have some say in the material world. And then at the same time, when they come to their senses, they'll find out that we are under the grips of a material nature. It is very interesting how many people have accepted this life as the stable one to live and even being happy in it, when in fact it is an absolutely, absolutely suffering condition. And it takes, listen to the Prabhupada says in so many ways. They'll finally hit you and say, I'm living no matter where I turn, what country I'm in. And now we understand what planet we're in the spiritual world. I mean, in this material world. Whatever planet we're in, there's only sense gratification, but the miseries, they continue everywhere. But people just have wool just over their eyes because, especially when we take this country that we're living in, there is so much that's made available. I was just listening about an hour or so ago to a class being given by Chandramal Swami, and he was making the point that people they're coming up, and we're being deceived in one sense because new things are put out. And we're always told the new is better. But is that really true? No, it is not. It may be convenient in one way, but it also causes a problem in another way. Every one of the new things that come out, where they say new, many, 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 many things that when we drive our cars, we can do with our own hands and legs. Now it's being done remotely, done by computer. Is it really necessary? The answer is no. But it's convenient. And they just sit back and the computer does everything that we used to be able to do. It's just done. Or we just push a button and everything gets done for us. But in the meantime, the way those things have been constructed, if we went into the science and engineering of it, we'll find out that we're actually suffering. But it's not obvious to people that we're suffering. When so many things are done without even us having a part to do with it. And I'll just give one example. I gave the temple, we have a temple vehicle, we had to go in for some repair and some maintenance. So they gave a car, a loaner car for that day for me to drive. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is a dealership. They will give the most recent car. They won't give me a whole car. So, we figured out so many things have changed in terms of even how you put it in drive and everything. Everything is changed on there. So we figured it out a little bit. And then we kept going. Hmm? And I'm looking at so many things. You cross the line, the tire comes in the highway to the division lines for the lanes. Even if you hit on it, there's something that will prompt and tell you that, oh, you've gone a little bit, you're getting off. Hmm? What are these things? Well, they use radiation to sense what's going on and then they tell you. But what's radiation? Is it good for our bodies? No. So we have the convenience, but at the same time, radiation is killing us. I had an office. I'll give one more example, then we come to this. An office, a new building that was constructed at the time that I was teaching. I hadn't retired yet. I was teaching at Penn State, this chemistry, new building for chemistry, and the offices for the professors. So I had my office, and what happens in the office is if you sit in there still, means still, the light will shut off. The light will actually turn off. Why did they put it in? The university said it's saving money because people who leave the office and forget to turn the lights off, when you leave the office and lock it, nobody's there. And there's a sensor after a while of a number of minutes, sense no movement, then the sensor shuts the light off. So if I'm tired and I take a nap because I don't have time to, I mean, it's not time for me to go to the classroom so I can take a nap, whatever I want. This is the freedom that we have in that type of job. I wake up and my room is dark because it's shut off. So it got to the point I was quite disturbed about it. And so I had to watch where they had put this sensor and where it was coming from. And I oriented my office chair and desk and everything so that I don't get much of the radiation. Because really what I'm doing, I'm sitting in there doing my work, but I'm being radiated on the whole time from something that will shut up. And I never stop turning my light off when I leave. I always shut it off. But they put something in there now to make me more sick because of the radiation to save a few bucks by the department. So this is what's going on. We're saying that we're making life more manageable, more easier on us, but actually we're making ourselves more and more and more sick. So the material world is like that. The only way out is what Srila Prabhupada is directing us to do, so that we can get out. Krishna doesn't make us do all these things. We come up with these things trying to be lording it over material nature. We can do this, we can do this, we can do that. But in the end, we're making ourselves suffer more. The 9 Yogindras, Nava sons of Maharaj Shabadi, we had 100 sons. But there were 9 of them that were going around the material universes and preaching. They came upon Maharaj Nimi, who was doing the sacrifice, a nice yagya. And they came and they became part of it. Maharaj Nimi welcomed them nicely. There were 9 of them, so he asked 9 questions so that each one of them could answer one of these questions. It's in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I pulled one of them out, chapter 2, text 49. Dehendriya prana mano divyam yo janma pyapya shudhaya tasha kriche samsara dharme abhimudhyamana smitya hare bhagavata pradan. Translation. Within the material world, one's material body is always subject to birth and decay. Similarly, the life air, prana, is also harassed by hunger and thirst. The mind is always anxious. The intelligence hankers for that which cannot be obtained, and all of the senses are ultimately exhausted by constant struggle in the material nature. A person who is not bewildered by the inevitable miseries of the material existence and who remains aloof from them simply by remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered Bhagavat Pradhan, the foremost devotee of the Lord. So one of the Navayogendras, the nine Yogendras, breaks down this description of the material world and how to actually get out of it mentally. Then finally, in a real sense, get out and go to the spiritual world. So the material world, the material body, whatever body it is, the physical body, it gets born and also begins to decay. It grows for a while and then it starts going down. Then he says the life air, the one that carries the soul to its next existence, is harassed by hunger and thirst. That was a new one for me. The mind is anxious. We know that. The intelligence sometimes picks the mind. Oh, we going to get this. Can we want this? We want this. Sometimes things that can't not be obtained, we still want it anyway. And all of the senses. He's explaining. I think it's Caravaggian. That's the one of the nine you're going to describe in this. Caravaggian. They are ultimately exhausted, the senses, by constant struggle in the material world. So that's what's going on. Now he says a sober person, a dhira, a person who is not bewildered by these miseries of the material existence, and by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, automatically becomes aloof from them, is considered the foremost devotee of the Lord. So in other words, the point he's making is we have to understand the material world for what it is and the problems that it gives us. But we also have to, more importantly, remember the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what's the easiest way? To chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada brings some things that is very, very interesting. He puts the point out that according to Madhvacharya, Srila Madhvacharya, there are three classes of intelligent living beings. The intelligent living beings are divided into three. Demigods are one, ordinary human beings who also have intelligence, and the demons also have intelligence. And so those are the three classes. So a living being, he says, is endowed with all auspicious qualities. A highly advanced devotee of the earth, of the Lord, living on the earth, or even in the higher planetary systems, a highly advanced devotee of the Lord is called a deva or demigod. Ordinary human beings, they have good qualities, they have bad qualities, and according to this mixture, they enjoy or they suffer on the earth. That's for human beings, regular human beings, that is. Not advanced devotees. Advanced devotees are thinking like demigods. But those who are distinguished by the absence of good qualities, and they're always going against piety or pious life, or the devotional service to the Lord, they are called the asuras or demons. Now, of these three classes, the ordinary human beings and the demons are affected very much by birth, death, hunger, whereas godly persons are aloof from such bodily distress. So Srila Prabhupada explains that even human beings that have the whole consciousness of remaining Krishna conscious, taking our mind and taking it under service or giving service to the lotus feet of the Lord, the devotees, and Guru, we remain aloof from those kinds of distress. Even a human being, an intelligent human being, can be that way. The demigods are automatically that way because they know what's what. And other human beings are going through the results of their karma. Mm-hmm. And so there's a text in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 20, Srila Prabhupada quotes, and I'll bring it up because he talks about how it brings up a very, very important point. So let me just read the Sanskrit first. Try vidya mam soma pa puta papa yagyai ispa swagatim pratayante te punyam asadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divi deva boga. This is the translation, those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. They take birth on the planet of Indra when they enjoy good godly delights. But the next verse of the Bhagavad Gita says that when one uses up these pious activities, one has to forfeit the status as a demigod, along with the pleasure in the heavenly kingdom, and return to earth as Nara or ordinary human being. So the laws of nature, Papa is saying, they are so subtle that one may not even return to the earth as a human, depending on what they've done in the previous karma. They may take birth as an insect or a tree, depending on that particular configuration of that karma. But then when it comes to the pure devotee does not experience material misery because he has given up the bodily concept of life and then identifies himself correctly as who? An eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a long way of bringing us to the point that the only way in which we're going to be happy and protected and prompted about how to go about life, even at the material level, is to always remember Krishna and serve the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, Guru and other devotees. So the whole thing is we have to just be so tuned in to Krishna consciousness, to Bhakti Yoga, and outside of that, there's only more and more and more suffering. Shiva Prabhupada says even when we're practicing just regulative practicing, we haven't developed that real love from our heart, but we are obeying the instructions for practicing Bhakti Yoga. Even doing that, it becomes joyful, very joyful. So there are various kinds of services, as we know, but when we start with this regulated services and slowly it becomes a habit, then over time we begin to like what we're doing, and then we begin to love what we're doing. And since it's all ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then our Krishna Prema also begins. We become very, very steady, and then our Krishna Prema, that is the aim of every devotee, begins now to slowly fructify, manifest. So it is difficult in the material world. It will always remain difficult in the material world. Ya nisha sava bhutanam tasyam jagati sangayam yasham jagati bhutani sa nisha pasyatuname. What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. As Srila Prabhupada has commented. Therefore, this life has to be lived in such a way that we are actually aloof from it. The Lord is aloof from the material energy, but we are in the material energy. Mentally, we also have to be aloof from the material things that's going on. We should not be deceived by the things that are phantasmagoria, many things that are being produced, because that's going to go on and on and on and on. New things are going to come up. We all remember the abilities in the computer some years back, 10, 20 years ago. Now they do different things. They're smaller, they do even more things. Hmm? They said that's convenient. They said that makes our life better. Well, we use it for Krishna consciousness to the best of our abilities in Krishna consciousness, and that's all. That's all that matters. Everything else, if we just use it only for material things, then we are actually wasting our time. So indirectly, what's being said is whatever that's material, and Srila Prabhupada said that too. The material world, yes, there is problems that we face, but whatever that we come across or whatever that comes into our possession, if we use it for serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are definitely going to be happy. If we use it for serving the Lord, though, then we're going to be happy. Because many things that are difficult, the Lord will help us to stay aloof from them by good intelligence. And literally, slowly, we begin to realize that our lives are being handled so well by the Lord because we have put our minds and our everything in these bodies to serving. So the key is to keep serving and keep thinking about the Supreme Personality of God and chanting His holy name, and He does the rest. And He literally does the rest. And we'll see that we will move through this dangerous material world, the suffering condition, but it won't really affect us much. We see it, but it won't really affect us much. Even if it seems to be hitting us, there's something else underneath that Krishna actually makes it work so nicely. Sometimes problems come in the beginning, we don't understand why it's happening that way. But in the end, we'll see there is some benefit in it. And it's only for a person that is taking even the regulations of how to do bhakti, just by regulations, taking it seriously, that person will realize that. And then we'll be realizing that after that, realize we're really, really, really well protected. Then we begin to be happy. Okay, we are in a place where the current is really bad and it's going against us, but Krishna is handling the boat of salvation, literally. And we're going through this without much of a problem. We see things happen around us, but it doesn't affect us so much. We also see what the problems are, and the problems are reminders to us that this is not home. So then if we slowly begin to turn our attention fully to Krishna, we will grow more and more and more and more and more. Sri Prabhupada says this bhakti is a gradual process. It's gradual because there's so many things that we're used to that have to go. Material things that we're used to that have to go. And so many new things that happen that we have to now handle them with the proper devotional attitude. We cannot live like commies anymore. We can't. If we live like commies, we're not going to go anywhere. Maya will actually take over our lives. So, of course, the whole idea is we chant your 16 rounds of japa, and you also obey the regulated principles. When we do that, then we are at the devotee platform. Chanamali Swami was explaining that earlier. 16 rounds is necessary, and obeying all 4 regulated principles. When you do that, then you can call yourself a devotee of the Lord. If we haven't come to that point, then what are we? Well, we are practicing to become a devotee. That is the situation. That's still good because you're shooting for a particular aim, but a devotee of the Lord is one who, at least by spiritual master's order, is chanting not necessarily 64, but 16 rounds minimum, and also obeying all 4 regulated principles. Obeying all 4 regulated principles puts us at the human, intelligent human platform. Anything lower than that, then we're just teetering along, living like the lower animals. So it is very, very necessary not only to drive away the sinful activities, but even the sinful desires that's in the heart, they also have to go. So that we are fully, physically and mentally obeying all 4 regulated principles. Some people have said it's so hard to do it. Well, there's so much that we gain from doing it. Peace here and also an opportunity to go back to Godhead. The price for it is so, so much greater that it is definitely worth putting in the effort. And as we well know, it's the effort that attracts the mercy. And so if we put in the effort with our regulated principles and our chanting, especially focused chanting, especially attentive chanting, then we have a very, very, very good chance to, even while we're here, be happy, and then later on go on into the best situation, the situation of living in the spiritual world without any death, without any disease. Everything is supplied. The material energy makes you work for everything. You work for everything. Spiritual world is not. And if you have to work hard, then you're in a suffering condition. And that's the situation we're in. People think that when we gain whatever we work for, then that's good and it's worth working for it. But actually, it is a material energy that makes us work for it. And having to work for it alone, even having to work for it, is a suffering condition. And many people don't realize that. They think it's normal. No, Maya has made us think it's normal. We're not supposed to work for a living. In the spiritual world, it's not like that. But here we have to work for a living. And so that alone is a suffering condition. Not to mention old age and what the body does to people who eventually get old. And sometimes at any time, diseases are around us. And when we catch it, it brings its own, flavor of suffering. So, yes, the Lord has created this world, this phenomenal world, the material world. The Sri Prabhupada makes the point that we should not blame the Lord for creating this suffering condition. It's because we ourselves didn't go by what he wanted us to do in the spiritual world that we've been put here, just like we cannot blame any government for setting up a prison because they are criminals that have to be put away. So to get away from all of this, we should help each other. Help each other to take the process seriously. Counsel each other, our friends who are devotees. Definitely very important to have devotee friends. Our best friends should be devotees. If you have a best friend that's not a devotee, you're in trouble. Your best friend should be a devotee. Your best friend should remind you about Krishna because that's the most important thing in the world. So make sure that your best friend, or best friends, are devotees because they will remind you about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you yourself will be very comfortable talking about Krishna around them and doing Krishna activities around them. Non-devotees don't understand that, no matter how much in the mode of goodness that they are. Very important to have the ones that are closest to us as devotees. Of course, we cannot get away from relatives in the material family. We should definitely be grateful to parents because they brought us to this world. But the fact is, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we've come to Krishna consciousness. That's the best situation for us. And we understand now we are in this phenomenal world, which is the material world, and is a world of trouble. But the way out of it also has been pointed to us. And for that reason, we need to stay in the association of devotees and have our best friends be devotees so that we can go back to the spiritual world when that time comes. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for listening to me going on in this material world. Actually, I hate it, but what to do? When you get old, you really feel it. So you can unmute yourself if you want to have, ask a question or you have a comment or some realizations that you'd like to share. Please do so. Hare Krishna. So anyone
Hare
like
Krishna,
to?
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, accept my holy obeisances. God, Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This understanding that this place where we are living is a prison house is, it is just
Beautiful.
when we try to make ourselves comfortable in a place that we will never be comfortable. There's that is such a, and that is also one of those aha moments. I've been listening to Srila Prabhupada, but when that understanding, so I know I'm obviously not disputing it, but when I actually understood that my life here is not meant to be happy, because everything we do, we are trying to make ourselves happy. My relationship is not good, somebody is not treating me good. Yes, because it is not meant to be good here. And it is only when we give up that sense of control and we depend and we say that, whatever is meant to be is what will happen, then there is a sense of relief. Obviously I'm not fully giving up control, fully giving up um, trying to make myself comfortable and happy here. But even a little bit of that realization has made it so much more easier.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very important point. And Prahlad Maharaj says, if you want to be happy here in the material world, stop trying to be happy. Stop trying to be happy if you want to be happy in the material world. It seems like a contradictory, part one statement, the part of it is contradictory, but actually it's not. Because if we try to be happy through the material way, we're going to be more frustrated. So if we pull away from trying to be happy in the material world, then there's not as much frustration that comes. When we endeavor to try to control things, then of course the anxiety also kicks in. The anxiety goes way, 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 way high. And so that's why Prahlad Maharaj says, if you want to be happy in the material world, stop trying to be happy. You will be automatically happy in the spiritual world. The soul is in bliss in the spiritual world. So we try to shoot for that, going back home and doing the things to go back home. Everything, we should be so greedy. And that's what Srila Prabhupada said. The price is to be greedy, to be involved in Krishna consciousness. That is the price. And everything then will be made available. Thank you, Mataji, but you really described it in a very succinct, a very nice way. And yeah, we are all practicing how to give up control and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that surrender, full surrender, the more we surrender, the happier we become. The more we surrender, the happier we become.
Yeah, I think not trying to make ourselves comfortable here is one side of the equation. Naturally, I don't think I was one who was craving for a lot of material things. I won't say that I was completely renounced, but but that in itself was also not enough. We also have to take up or try or make our effort to get love for Krishna. That is, so there's both of those are necessary. There is that thing that we understand we can never be in control. We can never be happy here. This is a futile attempt here. But on the other side, we also have to take up Krishna consciousness. We have to take up devotional service. And then it becomes twofold. It's
very, thank you very much for making the point. There is another level though. And the Avadut Brahman actually showed that. There's another level. When we understand what this material world is and who is the real controller, and when we decide on our own, because Krishna doesn't push us, to submit to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it gets to a point that we become carefree. And of course, it doesn't happen overnight, but it gets to a point where we become carefree. We're so convinced about Krishna's protection that we don't worry anymore. We don't worry anymore. Things would happen, but as soon as things happen, the intelligence kicks in and says, Krishna's going to handle it. Which is what? Krishna's going to handle it. Just keep going. You just keep going with the things that you do in your bhakti yoga, and Krishna's going to handle it. And that's what brings the internal happiness. Internal happiness finally comes in because that surety that when it comes, the mind is totally 100% sure that everything is handled by Krishna, and I just have to keep going as a servant of a servant of a servant, Lord, and just watch Krishna do everything else. Mm-hmm. Then good things that happen, even if we categorize it as good things that happen, fine. We categorize some things that are challenging, that's still fine. Because in the end, you realize that the Lord's hand is in it the whole time. The Lord's hand is in it the whole time. So that should be our very, very strong prayer to remain submitted at the lotus feet of the Lord. We actually should, because the mind sometimes takes us to different situations. So our prayer should be, let me still be at your lotus feet in all situations, in all situations. The world is full of happiness and distress, but when we are submitted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then everything that happens is controlled by him. And because he loves us, then we learn lessons from even what the so-called reversals are. And then the rest of the time we are protected. It actually works that way. When we understand that, we'll be very carefree mentally. Hare Krishna.
So is one way to measure how we are doing by seeing how happy or unhappy we are? If I'm a very unhappy person, can I use that as a yardstick to say, I've not surrendered to that extent, I have not given up control to that extent? Is that, I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, I understand the question. In one sense, that's true.
Mm.
In one sense, that's true. Because a person that is surrendered will not worry.
Mm.
They would not worry. They really would not worry. So much so that if they were in a situation that they think death is coming, it's still going to hit them within a flash of a moment. If I die, I just have to be thinking about Krishna. And this whole world that gives me so much trouble, it's going to be over. It actually is true. It's just a question of we've been armed with the proper ammunition. It's just a question of when to pick it up. Pick it up in time. Just pick it up in time. Mentally, pick it up, and then you'll be fine. So yeah, in all situations, even on the job, our material jobs, whatever is happening, we have to use our intelligence to comb through one situation to another, go from one situation to another. But it always has to be preceding that, the prayer that the Lord handle everything that happens. When that prayer is put out sincerely, then our day will go according to the way Krishna will cause it to happen. The Pandavas went through so many reversals, but in the end, everybody else was dead and they were there. And they were there.
Yeah.
So that does not mean that the stress won't come. You're in the material world, yeah, it will come. There's no getting around it. It's part of the makeup of the material world. But how we handle it, the consciousness and the understanding that we surrender to the Lord, He's handling everything. That part, that's on us to do. And on us to help each other as devotees to have that consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Prabhu.
it's easier said than done. I'm not going to say it takes a while to actually get to that point of being more carefree. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, accept the humble obeisances. God, Shri Prabhupada.
Accept my humble obeisances. All
Oh,
goes to
God.
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your class. It's very
Krishna's
motivating.
mercy.
Very, very motivating. And I feel like it keeps my faith going on like strong. And when we hear such class in the morning, it really makes our day nice and full with Krishna consciousness.
It's all the mercy of Guru.
Really, really very, very nice. Thankful. I'm thankful to Zoom also. We can hear to you and other people. And really, it is so nice. I'm thankful to Krishna also. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. It's interesting that you said thank you, Zoom. Huh? But you see, how did
That's
Zoom
true.
come about? How did Zoom come about? COVID-19.
COVID-19.
It was a disease that started this.
That's
Yeah.
But
true.
you see how Krishna's turned everything around. Now the devotees are actually able to benefit more even from preaching. It was a disease. It was total reversal for the whole planet. And now look at it. This
Yeah.
is exactly what we're talking about. How Krishna can turn things around like that. Mm.
Yeah.
That's true, Prabhu. This
Yeah.
Zoom actually, it makes, like morning when we get up and then start this Zoom,
Mm.
feel like I'm surrounded by people and knowing everything. And that
Mm.
morning thing, starting the day like that, it makes so happy.
Yeah.
And then, like, before it was not, we were listening to classes, everything. But now we know, like knowing each other and knowing more
Yeah.
personally, like that, that feeling that
It's
really, like
it's
you
it's
said, COVID made, thanks to COVID.
so much so that there are people that we see
Ah,
on Zoom, hear from them, have a
yeah,
lecture, and we haven't even seen them in person yet.
no.
And we don't even know what.
now, now you are so far, and we are
Mm.
here. And now,
Yeah.
right now, I am in California.
Yeah.
Not in Philadelphia. So, but I can have everybody's association. That was
Yeah.
really something. And
Mm.
then one thing, we have to have trust on anybody, Prabhu. That even for Krishna, if we don't have that surrendering thing and trust that Krishna will take care of me,
Mm.
that trust, that confidence we should have.
Mm.
That is as a human being, like I am for me. Sometimes,
Mm.
no, I can do it,
Yeah.
but that's not I. That is
It's the
not
Lord.
I am doing. He
Mm.
is doing.
Yeah.
That surrendering needs to be, takes a long time. I'm trying my best. Sometimes I say, no, Krishna is taking care. But
Mm.
still, no, I have to try this. So I don't know whether I should be trying or I should leave it like that.
You should still work. You should still work. That's covered in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna never allowed Arjuna to just sit and he said, you have your shakti, you're
Mm.
trained, so you have your duty to do. But we have to understand as we're doing that, we're doing for Krishna. We're
Mm.
doing for Krishna. You always, it's all the mental state when we're doing things, even physically. The mental state is so important. The mental state, why we're doing it, and who we are doing it for ultimately. Sometimes you can do things directly for Krishna, to call devotion service, and sometimes doing things indirectly. That's karma yoga, the things that we ourselves are doing, but we want to find a way to connect it with Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we don't know the way,
Mm.
but there's also a way out of that. You pray about it because you just ask Krishna, how can I direct this into your service? And the ideas will come. The ideas will come. And the more that you pray like that and you get the ideas, you get even more confidence, gain more confidence in what Krishna and the super soul is doing, because that's his department. Literally, if you pray like that, he helps you. He's with us. He literally is with us. Krishna is with us in the heart. Hmm? So we just have to keep remembering this. That's why lecturing is so important. You have to remember this. It's easier than we tend to make it if we just let the Lord handle.
Mm.
Yeah, by
Yeah,
allowing him.
when I was young, my mom used to say, no, if you put a lamp in the air outside,
Mm,
it say God will take care of it. But if it is windy, that lamp, you need to do your duty to protect little bit. Then God
mm,
will help you.
yes,
That's how they used to teach us.
that's good. Yeah, you were fortunate. You had the right. Yeah, the Lord
That's what.
helps those who are surrendered. Exactly.
First, you try yourself a little bit, and then God will help you. To think
Mm,
of God, He will help you.
mm,
But don't leave it like that, just like that. He will help. He will help. lazily don't sit like that.
Yeah.
That's how they used to teach us.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna.
thank you
Jai.
very much, Prabhu. Now, that
Hare
shadow thing was very good. You
Krishna's
said that
mercy.
shadow.
Oh, the example of a shadow. Yeah. That's the material world we're living in.
That is a material movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very
It,
much, Prabhu. Really.
Glory to Guru and Goranga. Any other final questions or comments? Is there someone that wanted to speak a little bit? Okay. If
Thank you,
not,
Pariksit Prabhu.
Hare
This is
Krishna.
fantastic.
Thanks. I don't have
So
a
glad. I really enjoyed the questions and answers there. That added even more understanding. So
Krishna's mercy.
thank you.
Krishna's mercy.
We got a chance to hear your daughter chant yesterday. She was here in Philadelphia as part of the
Yeah.
hope she got
She got back okay.
She came back okay, everything like
Yes.
that. And
Yeah.
a lot of them
She
were leaving.
got back.
I was thinking, wow, they're leaving late and they're going back
Yeah.
home. So we were
Yeah,
praying
but
that
she was on the phone to
everybody-
everybody and the uncle to make sure that she was awake. Yeah, she got back okay.
Yeah, but these youth have such shakti. I mean, they're not even. I mean, we call them youth, but they're starting to become, they're young young ladies and gentlemen now.
Young
But
spiritual warriors.
yeah, they're doing some really wonderful service. And I'm looking forward to seeing the impact they're going to have in the world in these next 5 years. They're very attractive. Very, their devotion is very attractive because the bond they have with each other and the love they have with each other is very visible.
Yeah, and strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
All right, dear Buddhis. So, Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha
Patitanam
Vitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.
Namo Namah. Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.